All right, good afternoon, class. Mabuhay. Welcome to our video lecture for our Unit 2, which is the Philippines overview. All right, so in the past lessons, we talked about the pre-Spanish era as well as the Spanish colonization and the American colonization as well as the Japanese occupation. So now let us move on to the geography, politics, and the government of the Philippines. Right, so the Philippines is one of the world's archipelagic nations. It is situated in Southeast Asia in the Western Pacific Ocean. Its islands are classified into three main geographical areas, which are Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Because of its archipelagic nature, Philippines is a culturally diverse country with its topography consisting of mountainous terrains, dense forests, plains, and coastal areas, and the Philippines is rich in biodiversity. It is considered as one of the mega biodiversity countries in the world with a high percentage of flora and fauna endemism. Oh, by the way, class, I am encouraging you to follow my discussion with your physical handout with you as we will be taking notes of some changes that happen in the Philippines that aren't updated in your handout yet. Right, so as pre-assessment, we're actually supposed to brainstorm this one as a class, but since we're doing this as a video lecture, just recall some of the lakes, major rivers, mountain ranges, islands, provinces in Mindanao, and major waterfalls on your own. Right, so I'll give you time. All right, so if you need more time, you can just pause this lecture. All right, so let's move on to the geography. All right, geography plays a key role in tourism. Geography provides a background about places that are created for tourism activities, environmental concerns, and other major issues that should be considered in managing and developing tourism in a particular destination. So let's explore this one. Right, so the Philippines comprises an archipelago of some 7,641 islands located off Southeast Asia between the South China Sea on the west and the Philippine Sea on the east. The major islands are Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. All right, so again, the bulk of the population lives on 11 of the 7,641 islands. Right, so let's talk about the land boundaries of the Philippines. So it has no land boundaries. Nearby neighbors are Taiwan to the north, Malaysia and Indonesia to the south, and Vietnam to the east, and Asia to the northwest. Right, so disputed territory, ayan, the Philippines, China, Taiwan, Malaysia, and Vietnam hold conflicting claims to portions of the South China Sea and Spratly Islands. It's because neighboring countries tayo, right? So it's because we're neighboring countries that these conflicts are unavoidable. All right, so the Spratly Islands are called the Kalayaan or Freedom Islands in the Philippines, and the Philippines also disputes Malaysia's claim to the state of Sabah. All right, so let's move on to this one. In 2009, Sabah was written out of the Philippines' legal archipelagic baselines, maritime jurisdiction, and thought to be solved indefinitely. However, by including the islands and territorial waters thought to belong to the Philippines through historic title, the proposed constitutional amendment restores the Sultanate's claim. So what's the Sultanate's claim? Just go over this paragraph. All right. Okay. Right. So let's move on to the topography of the Philippines. And the Philippines consists of volcanic islands, including active volcanoes with mostly mountainous interiors, surrounded by flat lowlands and alluvial plains of varying widths along the coasts. The elevation ranges from sea level to the highest point of Mount Apo on Mindanao Island at 2,954 meters above sea level. So again, it was mentioned that the Philippines consists of volcanic islands, especially active volcanoes. So some active volcanoes that we know of nowadays would be our Mayon volcano and Taal volcano. All right. Right, we have our principal rivers as well. So the longest river is Cagayan or Rio Grande de Cagayan in Luzon, which is when we compare that river to Pasig River, it's only The Pasig River is only 25 kilometers, and then the Cagayan River is 350 kilometers in length. All right. So we also have the St. Paul Subterranean River in Palawan, which is an 8-kilometer long underground river. And of course, with the climate, do not forget that we only have the wet and dry season. We don't have the winter, the autumn, the fall, and so on. Instead, we only have the wet and dry season. So during the wet season, which happens in June until November of the year, rains shower all across the land, and the dry season, meanwhile, starts from December to May of the succeeding year. All right. So let's move on to the most extreme points of the Philippines. So we have the northernmost point in the Philippines, which is your Mabulis Island. All right. So other names that are used to refer to the island are Yami or Waiami and Diyami. And then the highest point at Mabulis Island is the Waiami Hill. Right, so again, class northernmost point in the Philippines is the Mabulis Island. So just take note of this one as these information may appear in your examinations. All right, so southernmost point in the Philippines is the Frances Reef. Yan, Frances Reef. Right, and then the westernmost point in the Philippines is the Ligas Point, which is located in the municipality of Balabac. All right, and the island of the Balabac contains the oldest lighthouse in the Philippines, known as the Cape Melville Lighthouse. Right, so again, class, the oldest lighthouse in the Philippines is the Cape Melville Lighthouse, which is located in the municipality of Balabac, which also has the westernmost point in the Philippines, which is the Ligas Point. All right, so the easternmost point in the Philippines is found within the municipality of Caraga in Davao Oriental Province. It is known as the Pusan Point and is located within Barangay Santiago. Right, so the other one, the highest point in the Philippines, right? Sorry, let me just place this one. All right. The highest point in the Philippines is also the highest mountain in the country. This is the Mount Apo. So I believe that a lot of us are very familiar with Mount Apo already. Right, so the mountain name Apo is said to be after the name of a nobleman called Apong, who was murdered while intervening in the battle between two suitors of his daughter called Saribo. Another myth states that the name originated from the Filipino word Apo, which means grandchild or master. Alright, so let's dive into the lowest point in the Philippines, which is your Galatea depth. And it is 10,540 meters deep and forms part of the Philippine Trench found in the Pacific Ocean. The Galatea depth was first discovered in 1912 by the German ship Planet. However, detailed exploration did not take place until 1951. It was explored by a Danish ship called Galatea, that's why it's named after that one. Right, according to biological samples taken from the sea, a wide variety of bacteria, fish, and amphibians survive in those very low depths. So it's very interesting. Sometimes we get curious what's inside the very, very deep depth of the ocean. And until now, it's a mystery, sorry. Right, so let's keep this case analysis for now. But you may try to answer this one during your free time. Right, so after learning the overview of Philippine geography, another set that we should be familiar with is politics. It is important to learn about the relationship of the government and the tourism industry, which is comprised with entities which are in majority under the private sector. All right, so the type of government that we have is the presidential republic. Right. So what is the presidential republic? It's a form of government wherein power is equally divided among its three branches, which are your executive, legislative, and judicial. So if you can see in your handout, these ones are blank. So we're going to answer them during this discussion. Right. So allow me just to place this one, the screen well. Ah, sorry. All right. Here. Here you go. Right, so the first one is the branch that is authorized to make laws, alter, and repeal them through the power vested in the Philippine Congress. And this institution is divided into the Senate and the House of Representatives. So which one do you think is this one? Do you think it's the executive, the legislative, or judicial? All right, so class, it's the legislative branch. All right, so again, it's the legislative branch. Right, so moving on to the next one. This branch is composed of the president and the vice president who are elected by direct popular vote and serve a term of 6 years. The Constitution grants the president authority to appoint his cabinet, and these departments form a large portion of the country's bureaucracy. So, among the two remaining, which one do you think is it? Is it the executive or the judicial? All right, so the second one class is the executive. Of course, lastly, we have the judicial, which holds the power to settle controversies involving rights that are legally demandable and enforceable. So it is made up of a Supreme Court and lower courts. The Constitution expressly grants the Supreme Court the power of judicial review as the power to declare a treaty, international or executive arrangement, law, presidential decree, proclamation, order, instruction, ordinance, or regulation unconstitutional. So once again, class, the first one here is legislative, the second one is your executive, and the third one is judicial. Right, so let's move on. So for this one class, it's not updated yet. So I would like you to take note of this one. All right, allow me a moment to pause. All right, so let's go back. So our current president is not President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. So he's the 16th president of the Philippines. He's our former president. So who is our present president? Okay, allow me a moment to share my screen with you, my other screen. Right. Allow me to check my notepad. Where's my notepad? All right, here you go. Right, so our current president or our 17th president is Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. So don't forget the junior in his name class because we also had a president before who is Ferdinand Marcos Sr. Alright, so once again, this is his name class. Right, so let's go back to our screen. Right, so we have 17 regions as of August 7 of 2017. And it used to be 13 class. And then just a small trivia. If you were taught in elementary about the ARMM or the Autonomous Region of the Muslim Mindanao, it is now the BARMM at present. So B stands for Bangsa Moro. All right. Allow me to make this bigger. Okay, here you go. Right, so let me just write the other one then, because a while back it was very small. All right, and then ARMM. Okay, so let's proceed. Let's go back. Right, so we have 81 provinces, 1,490 municipalities, 144 cities, and 42,036 barangays. All right, so let's move on to the pre and post martial law years of Philippine tourism. So historically, this captivatingly optimistic country in Asia possesses an industry of tourism which had unexpectedly flourished during the circa of pre and post martial law years. So in the 1980s, tourism had slowly degenerated, and it was because of the terrors brought about by senseless crimes, peso devaluation, and aftermaths of the Aquino assassination. Right, the length of stay of millions of tourists had drastically shortened. All right. So the average stay of tourists has been recorded by the then Ministry of Tourism to be at an approximate of 12.6 days during the Marcos regime. All right. So the average days of tourists had dipped below at its shortest of 8.9 days because of that. However, with a miracle, unbelievably, the industry had bounced back from its deteriorating economic predicament after 4 years. All right, so let's dive into the notable people that contributed a lot to Philippine tourism. So the first one is the Ramos administration. This is the era when when the Philippines was tagged as the economic tiger of Asia, and it's because again of Fidel V. Ramos. All right, and they also believe that he has cured the ailing condition of Philippine tourism during that time. All right, so let's move on to the tourism industry reforms during the Arroyo stewardship. Right, so in 2003, during Gloria Macapagal Arroyo's administration, the number of tourists in the country had escalated to 2,838,000. Right, so that's very drastic. Okay, but let's move on to the Aquinos. It's More Fun in the Philippines campaign. So it was during the administration of Benigno Simeon C. Aquino III or Noy Noy. Right. So according to data from the Philippine Statistics Authority or PSA, the tourism direct gross value added or TDGVA settled at 8.2% of the country's gross domestic product in 2015. So it has surpassed the previous 7.5%, which was highest since 2000. All right. So let's move on. Well, let's dive into the Duterte administration with It's More Fun in the Philippines still, okay? All right. So before I forget, let me just share with you, class, that our current tourism campaign is no longer It's More Fun in the Philippines. It's already Love the Philippines. So that's our present tourism campaign, class. Do not forget. So please take note of this one. All right. So let's go back to the presentation. All right. Please just go over that one in your handout. And again, we will skip the case analysis. All right, and for this one class, for the pre-assessment, you can just use it as a post-assessment instead, okay? So let's go to the government sector. Right, so the government sector is responsible for the formulation of tourism policies, provision of guidelines for the development of destinations, and regulation of the industry in collaboration with other government entities. All right, so we have the Department of Tourism or DOT. I believe that we're all familiar with DOT. It is the executive department of the Philippine government responsible for the regulation of the Philippine tourism industry and the promotion of the Philippines as a tourist destination. So this has been declared by our RA 9593 or the Tourism Act of 2009. So again, class, please remember, the Tourism Act of 2009 is also known as the Republic Act number 9593. All right, so it states and declares a national policy for tourism as an engine of investment, employment, growth, and national development, and strengthening the DOT and its attached agencies. All right. Yes, so let's move on. The purposes of DOT are the following. So please go over that one. All right. And here again, let's know about the key officials of DOT, especially their secretary. As tourism students or future tourism professionals, we should know her or the person behind that one, as they're the people that we need to reach out to in order to ask for reports about our tourism plans, right? So It used to be Bernadette Romulo Puyat, but we have a new one at present. Allow me to type her name. Right, so the present DOT secretary is Miss Maria Esperanza Cristina Garcia Frasco. All right, so in short, she is Miss Cristina Frasco. All right. So please take note of that one, class. All right, so let's go. Let's go back to the presentation. So again, class, the DOT's marketing campaign at present is Love the Philippines. It's no longer that it's more fun in the Philippines. All right, so let's go to the DOT's attached agencies. Please take note of these ones as well, as this may appear in your examinations. All right, and it's not only for your examinations, but it's something that you can keep as a tourism professional in the future. So we have the TPB, or the Philippine Tourism Promotions Board, which was formerly known as Philippine Convention and Visitors Corporation, or PCVC. So the TPB is responsible for marketing and promoting the Philippines domestically and internationally as a major global tourism destination. And I see that it's working because a lot of foreigners are already finding out about Philippines. They are visiting the Philippines. All right, so it also markets the Philippines as a MICE destination. All right, so let's proceed to TIEZA, or the Tourism Infrastructure and Enterprise Zone Authority, which was which has replaced the Philippine Tourism Authority, or PTA. So the functions of TIEZA is to designate, regulate, and supervise the tourism enterprise zones. All right, and then develop, manage, and supervise tourism infrastructure projects in the country. So if you can see that function, um, maybe we're wondering why the infrastructures in the Philippines are sometimes substandard. I don't know also because it's conflicting. We have an attached agency for that, which is the TIESA. So let's see why. So let's proceed to the FPC, or Duty Free Philippine Corporation. Ayan. So if you tried going to an airport, these are your shops where you can buy pasalubong for your relatives upon coming home or upon going out of the country. Right, so it's a body corporate to operate the duty and tax-free merchandising system in the Philippines to augment the services, facilities for tourists and returning Filipino travelers, generate foreign exchange ad revenue for the government. All right, so the next one is our IA, the Intramuros Administration. So before I read the function of IA, let's first check this one out. So Intramuros is the oldest district and historic core of Manila, and it is also known as the Walled City. All right, so it's an attached agency of DOT whose main function are to restore Intramuros and promote it as a tourist destination. All right, so we have the National Parks Development Committee as well. So it is tasked to develop, preserve, and manage Rizal and Paco parks in Manila and other parks that may be assigned to NPDC. So class, with that said, all right, so we know that Rizal and Paco Park are national parks in the Philippines. All right, so we also have the NPC, or the Nayong Pilipino Foundation. So do not be confused, class. It's not NPF, it's NPC. And it manages the Nayong Pilipino Park, which is the only cultural park in the country that serves as the country's miniature. So again, the only cultural park in the Philippines is the Nayong Pilipino Park. Right, so we also have the PRA, or the Philippine Retirement Authority. All right, so it's mandated to attract foreign nationals and former Filipino citizens to invest, reside, and retire in the Philippines with the end view of accelerating the socio-economic development of the country, contributing to the foreign currency reserve of the economy, and providing them the best quality of life in the most attractive package. So, class, if you're wondering why there's a lot of foreigners in the country, Yeah, this is probably because of the PRA, or sometimes we're wondering why foreigners want to retire here or why Filipinos from other countries want to retire here. It's probably because of this one. And despite that, actually the value of money of the foreigners are let's say are is the value of their money is very big when they come to the Philippines. That's why they get encouraged as well. Right, so let's go to the Philippine Commission on Sports Scuba Diving, or PCSSD. So again, class scuba means self-contained underwater breathing apparatus which divers use in order for them to survive the intensity or the depths of the waters. Right, so the PCSSD, right, intensifies measures to provide the standard basic dive rules to all levels or kinds of divers. All right, so let's move on to our local government unit, right? So they regulate the establishment, operation, and maintenance of cafes, restaurants, beer houses, hotels, motel inns, pension houses, lodging houses, and other similar establishments, including tourist guides as a transport. So nowadays, if you want to establish a business, it's not only basta-basta. It's not like you just want to build a cafe and that's it. No, you have to go through the process. All right, so let's dive into our other national government units involved in the tourism industry. So we have the DOTR, which is responsible for the promotion, development, and regulation of a dependable and coordinated network of transportation systems, as well as in the fast, safe, efficient, and reliable transportation service. So those people who are commuting or using public utility vehicles in the morning to go to class, yeah, and the DOTR is responsible in supposedly making your commute life easier. So I hope in the future that the long queues or the long lines in transportation will be solved. All right. Because sometimes even if you left your house early, you will still arrive late because of the long line and the lack of the jeepneys available or any other transportation. All right, so let's move on to the Civil Aeronautics Board, or the CAB, and the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines. All right, so they are responsible in establishing safety standards for air carriers. All right, and let's move on to Marina. Of course, they're responsible for maritime safety with the name itself. And all ships and vessels are under its jurisdiction. And they work together with the Philippine Port Authority, or PPA. All right, so let's go to LTFRB, which is our Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board. Yeah, so they are the ones who issue and suspend and cancel certificates of public land transportation services like buses and other motorized vehicles. So when these PUVs, or public utility vehicles, commit violations, the LTFRB is the one that faces them. Sometimes their contracts or their franchise as well as their licenses get suspended because of them. All right, so let's go to the Department of Public Work and Highways, which is your DPWH. They are responsible for infrastructure of roads and bridges. So they are actually facing a big controversy at present. All right, so let's go to DFA. And this agency is where travelers who wish to travel abroad apply for their passport. So if you don't have a passport yet, I recommend you go to DFA as soon as possible, or you book an appointment because it can be difficult. Malay mo, your tita wants to treat you to Hong Kong, something like that, and you don't have a passport. And just to share with you, class, you should renew your passport, passport renewal, all right? Should be 6 months before expiration. All right, so there are instances, class, that when you go out of the country, and even if your flight is today and you're returning tomorrow, if they see that your passport is expiring in 6 months, they might not let you go out of the country. All right, so let's go back. The Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or your DNR, and they oversee the protection of the natural environment. And if you want to build a house or build buildings for your businesses, the DENR is one of the agencies that you have to face because they are going to check whether you're cutting trees and things like that. And then lastly, the Philippine National Police or the PNP is the agency that helps promote peace and order and protects the residents and tourists as well. All right, so that's all for your chapter 2 class. Right, so if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you so much. We'll be back for our unit 3.